And I sent the command.
Good evening from Mission Control in Houston. You are looking at the Soyuz MS-18 spacecraft, all buttoned up and ready to depart the International Space Station less than 14 minutes from now to bring home a veteran Russian cosmonaut who spent 6.5 months in space, and a Russian actress and her producer-director who spent 12 days in orbit filming scenes for a movie sponsored by Roscosmos and Moscow-based media entities. Clad in their Russian Sokol launch entry suits and strapped into their seats in the descent module of the Soyuz are veteran cosmonaut Oleg Novitskiy, flanked on his left by spaceflight participant Klim Shipenko, and on his right by actress Yulia Peresild. Shipenko and Peresild launched to the International Space Station back on October 5th on the Soyuz MS-19 spacecraft, arriving on the complex some 3 hours later. They spent the past 2 weeks shooting scenes for the movie titled Challenge, in which Peresild portrays a surgeon launched to the station to attend to an ailing crew member. Now the task at hand is coming home to a high-speed entry back to Earth and a landing northeast of where they launched from, a desolate patch of land on the steppe of Kazakhstan, about 92 miles to the southeast of the remote town of Zhezkazgan. Sunrise is scheduled at the landing site in about 30 minutes, with the weather forecast calling for clear skies and temperatures in the 40s to greet the trio as they come home.
Television video connected. Correct.
Oleg Novitskiy will be returning to Earth with an impressive log to his credit. He will have spent 191 days in space during expeditions 64 and 65, a mission that covered 3,056 orbits of the Earth, he having traveled 80.9 million miles on this mission. Once he lands a few hours from now in Kazakhstan, Novitskiy will have logged 531 days in space during his 3 flights. He also conducted the first 3 spacewalks of his career in excess of 22 hours in the void of space. For the 2 spaceflight participants coming home with Novitskiy, their statistics equally impressive: 12 days in space, 192 orbits of the Earth, a mission spanning 5.1 million miles. Shipenko and Peresild are all set to come home. The Russian search and recovery forces, called Rosaviatsa, will be poised to recover the crew, extract them from the Soyuz spacecraft following the landing that is scheduled at 11:35 and 42 seconds p.m. Central Time, which will be 10:35 and 42 seconds a.m. Kazakhstan time at the landing site on Sunday morning.
Ready for...
About 4.5 hours ago, Peresild, Shipenko, and Novitskiy bid farewell to their crewmates on the station, including cosmonaut Anton Shkaplerov, who they launched with on October 5th. They then floated into the Soyuz vehicle to suit up and conduct leak checks of their suits and the docking interface between the Soyuz and the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module to which it is attached. This is a replay of the video that showed the 3 crew members getting inside the Soyuz vehicle and ultimately Shkaplerov closing the station hatch on the other side of the Soyuz hatch that you saw swinging closed just a moment ago. Hatch closure occurred at 3:41 p.m. Central Time, and the hatches were formally and finally latched for good at 4:54 p.m. Central Time. The 3 crew members aboard Soyuz, who had earlier activated their spacecraft, conducted leak checks of their Sokol suits, as well as the docking interface between the Soyuz and the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module, as the countdown clocks here in Mission Control are ticking backward, less than 8 minutes away from the issuance of the command to begin the opening of the hooks that hold the Soyuz to Naoka. It will take about 90 seconds for those hooks to disengage, and at 8:14 p.m. Central Time, 9:14 p.m. Eastern Time, there will be physical separation by the Soyuz from the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module. Springs on both sides of the docking interface will push off against one another, and the Soyuz will be on its way home.
Copy.
You will be hearing the interpreted discussions between Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov outside Moscow with the crew on board the Soyuz. They will refer to the call sign for Novitskiy of his spacecraft, which is Kazbek. Kazbek being one of the major mountains in the Caucasus and one of the highest peaks in Russia. That is what Novitskiy has used throughout his career as the call sign for his Soyuz vehicle. The landing by the Soyuz a few hours from now in Kazakhstan will be the first landing by an all-Russian crew since Sergei Zalyotin and Alexander Kaleri returned to Earth on June 16, 2000 on the Soyuz TM-30 spacecraft after they spent time decommissioning the Mir space station. The last time a Soyuz returned to Earth without a U.S. astronaut on board was September 12, 2015, when a Russian cosmonaut, a European visiting crew member, and a Kazakh cosmonaut landed in Kazakhstan.
S-17 command. Yes, you can go ahead and issue S-17 headlight power.
И действия в рамке, которые по указанию Земли тоже можно выдать. R7 команда.
And also
R5 один раз.
R5, that is in.
At this hour, the International Space Station is flying from southwest to northeast over western China at an altitude of 258 miles. Everything is in readiness, the station in good shape, as is the Soyuz MS-18. This is the spacecraft that Novitskiy launched on, along with NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei and Russian cosmonaut Pyotr Dubrov back on April 9th. Peresild and Shipenko, the two spaceflight participants, as we mentioned a moment ago, launched on the Soyuz MS-19 spacecraft back on October 5th. With Anton Shkaplerov, he stays on board the station and will come home at the end of March with Vande Hei and Dubrov. Vande Hei and Dubrov are expected to log 355 days in space. That will mark the longest mission, single mission, by an American astronaut in history. At the moment of undocking, Expedition 65 will formally come to an end, and Expedition 66 will formally begin under the command of European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet, who will remain the commander of the station for the next couple of weeks until he hands over command of the complex to Anton Shkaplerov. Pesquet is scheduled to return to Earth with his Crew Dragon crewmates, Shane Kimbrough, Megan MacArthur, and Aki Hoshide of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency in early November.
From the external camera.
Less than 4 minutes away now from the initiation of the undocking command to begin the opening of the hooks, holding Soyuz in place. A good view of the Soyuz docked to the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module, which arrived at the station in late July, one of the largest modules on the International Space Station. At the same port to which the Soyuz is currently attached, a node module is going to be launched in November to dock to that same port. That will provide multiple docking ports for Russian vehicles, both Soyuz and Progress vehicles, in the future.
Moscow Station, space to ground 1. Go ahead.
Через 2 минуты включаем.
Have started
2 minutes
to receive the image of the vehicle camera.
System.
Time is incrementing and data is populating.
Full command.
Copy, Piotr. Thank you.
Armed. Input is rebooted and is operational at this time.
Олег, у тебя на инфу 1 что сейчас?
Alec, what does info?
The station is currently flying over the area of China that saw the launch of 3 Chinese astronauts on Shenzhou 13
SSVP.
on Friday morning, U.S. time.
We have.
Those 3 astronauts arrived at their space station about 6 hours after their launch. Everything is in place, so the Russian search and recovery forces will be departing Karaganda, Kazakhstan, the staging city for the recovery operations, to head to Zhezkazgan, and then will board Russian Mi-8 helicopters to fly the short distance, about a 30-minute helicopter ride down to the landing site to begin to recover the crew following touchdown.
Shall I go with the next one? D7. Copy. D7 at the scheduled time.
About 1 minute until the initiation of the undocking command.
D7 docking and internal transfer.
Novitskiy is in the center seat of the descent module, the center section of the 3-section Soyuz spacecraft, flanked on his left by Klim Shipenko and on the right by Yulia Peresild.
Олег, выбери на input 2 формат.
On input 2, could you please select rendezvous display?
Очень громко. Принял. 4-12, команда D17.
D17.
Да, подтверждаю.
Подготовлена.
G17, probe latches retracted. Command is armed.
Команда выдана.
At foot 12,
Принято.
command is issued.
Олег, выбери на input 2 формат сближения.
Could you please select rendezvous display on input 2 in work?
Выбрал.
Selected.
The undocking command has been issued.
And video TV.
And the report is that hooks are now driving open.
Copy.
We're expecting physical separation
Issued.
at 8:14 p.m. Central Time, 9:14 p.m. Eastern.
Олег, успеешь выдать команду R9?
Alec,
Какую?
how about R9 command? Will you...
After physical separation, there'll be a pair of separation burns by the Soyuz engine to increase its opening rate away from the International Space Station.
R9 command is issued. Copy. For the external docking camera power.
And physical separation confirmed. Undocking confirmed. Soyuz MS-18 is now free of the International Space Station. Undocking occurring on time at 8:14 p.m. Central Time, 9:14 p.m. Eastern Time, as the International Space Station flew 258 miles over northeastern China.
We're on page 43, and we do have...
Expedition 65 is now in the history books. Expedition 66 formally underway.
Олег, контролирую посторонних предметов.
This view now from an external camera on the Soyuz vehicle as it backs away from the new Naoka multipurpose laboratory module.
That is not visible yet.
The first separation burn will occur about 2 minutes from now. An automated 8-second burn.
Copy.
мне на камере не видно ничего.
I don't see anything with the camera at this time. Input 2 is in the way.
Так, ну ты контролируй по ОСК.
Check via OSK.
По ОСК такой же узел не виден.
That's
Информация движения на импорт.
not visible. I'm on input 1 and the docking node is clean.
Принято.
Copy.
The report from Oleg Novitskiy on the condition of the Nyoka multipurpose laboratory module docking port.
Прошло 2 минуты.
It has been 2 minutes. Checking depot.
Итак, ожидаем включения первого уводного импульса.
Expecting the first burn in 20 seconds.
секунд.
10 seconds.
Есть включение депо.
Depot activation, the first burn.
80.
And the first separation burn being executed
И это контролируем разворот.
Duration, monitor.
and complete. An 8-second separation burn. The next separation burn, about a minute from now, will be a 15-second burn. Novitskiy, Peresild, and Shipenko leaving the International Space Station.
Не будет, да, разворот.
No, you're not going to have the maneuver in this.
The actress and her producer-director leaving a high-flying movie set that they spent 12 days shooting scenes for a film entitled Challenge.
Так, ожидаем. Второй импульс через 20 секунд.
In 20 seconds, expecting the next burn.
Да, контролируем отработку импульса.
Yes. Monitor the duration of the burn.
Так, 5 секунд.
5 seconds.
Есть работа ДПО.
Depot activation.
The second burn underway.
Copy.
This increases the opening rate.
Есть отключение от работы 15 секунд.
12 seconds burn. We are on page 44.
Есть
Отработали, да, импульс принято.
Copy.
Да, отлично. Выполняем заключительную операцию.
Perfect. Now,
принял.
final operations.
Так, вдув акселерометр погасли.
Reduce accelerometer. Off accelerometer is not illuminated. Issuing E2. E2?
E1.
No, E1. E1.
Я один. Выдал команду, иду.
Inhibiting dynamic modes. E1.
E1 надо выдать.
Команда Е1 выдана.
E1. Computer control inhibited.
И выбираем первый коллектор.
And now select the first manifold, A1.
Two good burns, an on-time departure for the Soyuz MS-18 with Novitskiy, Peresild, and Shipenko on board.
Принято.
The Soyuz and the International Space Station flying free from one another as they begin to pass over the northwestern Pacific Ocean.
ФП, фару.
Now deactivate docking and internal transfer system and the headlight.
Команда D8 выдана.
D8 command is deactivated and G17 is no longer illuminated.
S11 не горит.
F11 not illuminated.
Принято.
Copy. S11.
Так, фара выключена.
The headlight is off.
17.
Issuing V18 command.
Все верно.
Correct.
The upper section of the Soyuz, the bulbous section, is called the orbital module. The 3 crew members are strapped in their seats in the center section, called the descent module. That's the section that returns to Earth for its landing in Kazakhstan. The lower section, the white trunk, and the solar arrays, that's the instrumentation and propulsion module. The deorbit burn that we'll discuss in more detail a few moments from now will set the stage for the Soyuz to begin its return to Earth and its descent back into the atmosphere. About 30 minutes after the deorbit burn, the pyrotechnic separation of those 3 sections will take place.
Thank you, guys. It's good to see you. See you again in half a year.
Контролирую параметры КДУ.
Alec, let's check KDU parameters.
После этого можно будет...
Так, шар баллона 155, 155.
155 for propellant bottle and 428 is the propellant value. Copy.
Так, готов выдать команду.
Ready to issue input to command
Секунду, Олег, сейчас.
for video
Да.
seat deactivation. Stand by here, Alec.
Так, на инпу 1
On input 1,
высвечивается формат ВКУ.
I have VKU inaudible.
Ну, сейчас мы сейчас отключим телевидение. И все.
Okay, yes, I see the video monitoring system is still on, but we are going to turn it off from the ground. I copy.
Once again, you're looking at the Soyuz MS-18 spacecraft with Oleg Novitskiy, the veteran Russian cosmonaut, Russian actress Yulia Peresild, and producer-director Klim Shipenko on board. The undocking occurring just over 10 minutes ago at 8:14 p.m. Central Time, 9:14 p.m. Eastern Time. The Soyuz executing 2 pre-programmed departure burns to increase its opening rate away from the station, where a little over 2 hours and 17 minutes from now, there'll be a large engine firing of 4 minutes and 39 seconds, a deorbit burn that will basically be a braking maneuver to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. Its computers honed in on a landing site 92 miles to the southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan, Kazakhstan.
Олег, можно выдать команду. Вот
Alex, you can go ahead with the next command.
This is not the only Russian vehicle movement for this upcoming week. On Wednesday, the unpiloted ISS Progress 78 craft will undock from the Poisk module on the space-facing side of the Russian segment of the station, back away to a distance of just over 100 miles from the station, and then conduct a re-rendezvous and an automated redocking to the same Naoka docking port that the Soyuz just departed from, the redocking occurring on Thursday night. That is designed to enable the Progress 78 to work in tandem with the Naoka's propellant system to conduct a leak check of that propellant system on the new multipurpose laboratory module in advance of using Naoka for attitude control, orientation control of the station.
Copy.
Принял.
Copy.
Flying 258 miles over the Pacific, a good view of the departing Soyuz vehicle. The 3 crew members in good shape on board, following the track of the Soyuz and the condition of their systems as they move further and further away from the International Space Station. At this point, the crew on board the Soyuz has a bit of free time. Russian flight controllers will be uplinking information to the onboard computers that updates the landing site location if required. The crew shortly will report on its readiness to begin its descent after the deorbit burn that is planned at 10:41 and 46 seconds p.m. Central Time. The Russian search and recovery forces, called Rosaviatsia, they are employing their full complement of a dozen Russian Mi-8 helicopters, 3 Antonov fixed-wing aircraft, and at the landing site they'll have a variety of all-terrain vehicles to assist in the extraction of the crew from the Soyuz vehicle following its landing. The crew will have a few minutes to get its land legs back a bit as they sit in chairs near their capsule Following their extraction, they'll be then carried in those chairs to a nearby inflatable medical tent to get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits and into more comfortable flight clothing. They will be brought back to 3 respective helicopters for a flight of almost 2 hours back to the staging city in Karaganda, Kazakhstan, where they will board a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft to fly back to their training base in Star City, Russia, outside of Moscow. Once again, the Soyuz continuing to depart to a greater and greater distance away from the International Space Station. The timeline from this point calls for the Soyuz to reach its deorbit burn distance from the station just a couple of hours from now. The deorbit burn to be executed at 10:41 and 46 seconds p.m. Central Time, 11:41 and 46 seconds p.m. Eastern. It will be a 4-minute 38-second braking maneuver, retrograde, to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its descent back to Earth. Right after the deorbit burn is executed, the orbital module, the uppermost section, the bulbous section of the 3-section Soyuz vehicle, will be depressurized. That will set the stage for the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz some 29 minutes after the deorbit burn itself. The module separation, that pyrotechnic separation of the three sections, is scheduled at 11:10 p.m. Central Time, just before atmospheric entry.
Moscow Station on Space to Ground 1. Go ahead, Peter.
Выполнил заключительные операции по радиограмме 0520.
And radiogram 05 20. All steps are complete. And all files are in directory named after the number of the radiogram.
Можно переводить в положение закрыто.
I need you to go to
Желательно по форме 24.
reposition the MLM Soyuz PEV to closed position. We copy that.
Поправка можно уже сейчас закрыть.
We'd like you to stick to the timeline, time of transitioning the MLM Soyuz PEV to closed position. Actually, I have a correction to make. The specialist just told me that they're ready for PEV to be closed. Copy in work. Moscow Station on Space to Ground 1. MLM Soyuz PEV is in the closed position. Copy, Peter. Thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston, half a world away at the Russian Mission Control Center. This view from a balcony camera overlooking their space station flight control room. Their flight controllers in charge of tonight's activities as they talk to the crew on board the Soyuz MS-18. The Soyuz commander Oleg Novitskiy, flanked by spaceflight participants Klim Shipenko and Yulia Peresild. Undocking occurring about 27 minutes ago. At 8:14 p.m. Central Time, 9:14 p.m. Eastern Time, the Soyuz moving further and further away from the International Space Station at this point. Just 2 hours from now, at the prescribed distance away from the station, the Soyuz will execute a 4-minute, 38-second deorbit burn as depicted in this animation. It is a braking maneuver, a retrograde firing of the Soyuz engines to slow the vehicle down, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its descent back to Earth. 29 minutes after the deorbit burn, the module separations will be commanded, a pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections. The crew inside the center section, called the descent module, will then be barreling back into the Earth's atmosphere and entering into the plasma regime just around 11:14 p.m. Central Time for about 5 minutes of peak heating on the vehicle. Once they emerge from that regime, the command will be issued to open up parachutes, first a drogue chute to slow the Soyuz down, followed by the deployment of a main parachute, a huge parachute that you're familiar with from watching previous Soyuz landings. Here's the animation that shows the main parachute being deployed and the drogue chute being jettisoned. That then is the final slowing down of the vehicle, other than the firing of the braking rockets just a couple of feet off the ground that will soften the impact of landing for the 3 crew members. Landing scheduled at 11:35 and 42 seconds p.m. Central Time, 10:35 and 42 seconds a.m. Kazakhstan time on Sunday morning. The weather forecast at the landing site is expected to be very, very good for the crew's return. Clear skies, light winds, temperatures in the mid-40s Fahrenheit. So with the Soyuz having undocked on time, with the 3 crew members on board, everything is in readiness for their return to Earth, and we will be ready to bring all of that to you in just an hour and a half from now. We'll be back on the air at 10:15 p.m. Central Time, 11:15 p.m. Eastern Time with deorbit burn and landing coverage, including what we expect will be live video from the landing site as we typically get through the time the crew is brought into their inflatable medical tent after being extracted from their vehicle. So don't go far. Come back and join us about an hour and a half from now for Soyuz deorbit and landing coverage. In the meantime, we'll bid you a good evening, and that's it for now from Mission Control in Houston.